everybody, I'm Tom Vasel.
I'm Zee Garcia, what's happening?
And I'm Sam Healey.
This is the first week of August of 2015. We are doing a set of videos here about our experiences at GenCon. GenCon, we went to GenCon last Tuesday, and we stayed there till Monday. Now, Tuesday and Monday were a lot of traveling happening on those days.
Yeah.
But we were there for, it felt like a week. Actually, it felt like 2 weeks.
Yes, it did.
Yeah, like on every trip that's packed this densely, it always feels like a longer time than you're actually there.
Very much.
Because there's a lot going on.
So this was my 5th GenCon, your 3rd.
I think so.
And Sam's 1st GenCon. And it was certainly bigger. This year GenCon had 61,000+ people. And there was just a lot of people there. So in this video, we're going to talk a little bit about what we did and what we thought about how we did. So the first thing was our hotel. We stayed at the Hyatt Regency, which I think is either that or the Westin is one of the 2 best hotels to stay in at the convention.
Right,
Yeah.
because you're right there, and the Hyatt Regency has a real nice lobby. You have a few really great food options down there. You can get to the convention center by just crossing the street, so it's right there. It's a solid hotel. It's a great place to stay if you're going to GenCon, absolutely.
Yep. Mirrored all of those statements. I guess maybe they could have used some more tables down in the lobby to accommodate all of the gamers, because those tables cleared up really fast.
Well, there was gaming on the 2nd floor, and there was tables there, although there was scheduled events during the convention, but there was some outside gaming. There was like some big rooms there where people were gaming, and I think one of those rooms was where the Yellow conference was.
That's
Yes.
right, on the third floor, I believe.
On the 3rd floor. So there was tables, so you could game there. Gaming in the hotel room, which we did once, was not optimal. If there was one thing I would complain about the hotel, well, the lighting was not the best in the rooms.
Sure.
Yeah.
But you do have a table that you can wheel out.
Roll around, yeah.
You can actually roll the table and put it, say, between 2 beds, and you could do that. It fits between the 2 beds. It's a nice big table. It's a pretty good surface. So, while perhaps not ideal to gaming in a hotel room, it's probably better than most hotel rooms when it comes to being able to game in there.
Right. Yeah, I would agree with that.
Now, the hotel situation at GenCon is not ideal. We were fortunate to be able to get rooms at the Hyatt. Many people are not fortunate. There are other hotels within walking distance, or many hotels within walking distance, but pretty much the whole town sells out. And there are people who are driving in or not. But I'll tell you, if you can somehow get a hotel that's within walking distance, I cannot recommend that highly enough. I mean, there were times where we're like, oh, I got something in the room. So we just went and got it.
Right.
Or, oh, I got some games. What do? Go put them in the room.
Yep.
Or just if you just want to rest or use a clean bathroom, you can do that in the room. And so this is probably the worst convention of any I've gone to for hotels. Because with Origins, you can pretty much get a hotel nearby, too close to the end. At BGG and Dice Tower, you're in the hotel of the convention. This one is tough. And so
if you stay far away enough and you have to drive in, then parking will be a major situation, and it's a headache as well, because we had John, for example, who lives there, and he had to drive in every day, and he said that was a major headache, right? So that's problematic as well. So definitely, if you can get a room where you don't have to drive into the convention, do it.
Yeah.
The next thing is food. We talked a little bit about food before GenCon, but I really like many of the restaurants at GenCon. The food inside the convention hall is overpriced and pretty bad. I mean, you can get, pretzels and pizza, I think.
Yeah, right.
Hot dogs.
Hot dogs. And you're paying a lot of money for that stuff.
Yeah, you're paying at least $10 for the entree and something to drink with it. So it's really, really astronomical how much they price that stuff at.
It's no good.
Right outside the convention center, they had a whole pile of food trucks. Did you guys go to those at all?
No.
I got a drink at one once because the lines are simply too big. I read online even that some people were really displeased with both the quality, which I actually have thought it's fine before when I've been there in my previous years, but the waiting is simply too long. You will go out there and there are just troves of people just waiting at the trucks. They have massive lines at every single one of them. They close off that street, which is another thing. If you go and get something to eat, you have to make your way back out the same way you came in. You can't cut through the trucks. And it's just, so no, I avoided it. I avoided it because, well, we had planned meals also. Yeah. But even when I went out there, I went to one, and I just picked the one that had the shortest line because everybody has soft drinks, right? So I just picked one, bought a drink. That was the extent of my interaction with the food trucks this year.
And there's a lot of really good restaurants in the area. There's a lot of high 5-star style restaurants. You got to be careful for that because there's a lot of like low quality food and then high, but there's not a lot of the fast food variety. There's a Steak and Shake there, which gets crowded, majorly crowded. Yeah. There was a Subway in our hotel and a pizza place. I mean, you can find these places, but there was a time where we were like, we want to just go someplace. Zee and I wanted to go and grab a bite to eat. Mm-hmm. And we were like, oh, okay, that's too expensive. This place isn't open. It took us a while before we found something.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But
that was late at night, though.
Well, true, but I mean, there's usually the food courts and things. I don't know.
I think you're probably used to living in suburbia because downtown places, I've noticed, everything shuts down because nobody lives there.
Right, right.
But if you're in suburbia, everything stays open later because that's where people live. Mm-hmm. And so that it kind of makes sense when you go out late at night that you won't be able to find anything in a downtown area.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's one thing I learned. It's reservations are great. Okay, you just go. Mm-hmm. And I mean, if you know what restaurant you're going to go to, go. Make reservation, boom, you're in. Also, eating off kilter. Off times. We had a Kickstarter meal that we went to at 11 a.m., mm-hmm. and we had no problem getting in a restaurant. We could have went to any restaurant in the area because they were all pretty. But when we left at like 1,
yeah,
the restaurants were packed.
Right.
So that's that. Okay, so the reason we went to GenCon was to set up a booth. So what did you guys think about that? We had a booth. It was 30-30 in the very back of the hall. We got it set up. We had some promos, and it was kind of like half selling promos and the other half just meeting people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think of that?
Well, I'll tell you, the setting up of the booth, let's start at the very beginning, was a little bit brutal because of how hot it was in that hall in the convention center. There was, they had bay doors open, and there was a non-existent almost breeze coming through. But no AC running, nothing like that, possibly because those bay doors were open. And it was extremely hot in there. And everyone on that day, on both Tuesday and Wednesday, is working to set up their booth. They are setting it all up, folding out tables, putting out their merchandise. And everyone is just covered in sweat. It's so uncomfortable in there. So those first couple of days were a little bit brutal just setting up,
Yeah.
And we're from Miami.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was certainly a bad first impression, let's say.
Oh, it was a horrible first impression, to be honest with you. I mean, the reasoning has to be better than just, I need to save $1 to do something like that to people who have paid to be there.
Well, I definitely heard rumblings of booths willing to pay a little more for them to run that AC.
Actually, every booth I talked to, I would have thrown some money in for them to turn that AC
that's
on.
the thing, though. They shouldn't have to. They're already paying thousands of dollars to have a booth at this convention. Mm-hmm. The convention needs to turn the air on, for crying out loud, so they don't kill themselves setting up their booth. It just... That seems like a no-brainer to me, but I know there was probably some pencil pusher somewhere saying, well, if we don't turn it on for Tuesday and Wednesday, we're going to save, however much, $500, $600 on air conditioning. Mm-hmm. When they're making, hundreds of thousands of dollars off of everybody. Just doesn't make sense to me.
And this was a disappointment to me because this really affected us at GenCon. Because one of the reasons we go in early, We go in early to set up our booth. Our booth was set up on Tuesday, and then we go around and talk to people on Tuesday. We talk to people on Wednesday because when the convention starts, it's too crowded to really get good chances to talk.
Right.
So I always get to go around and talk to publishers and designers, find out news, but it was literally impossible to do this because they were either in a pool of sweat setting up their booth, and you don't want to interrupt that.
Cranky.
Right, and as soon as people were done setting their booths, they got out of there. So you couldn't find people in the convention center as easily. Everyone was just out.
Right.
We had it easy as far as our booth was concerned. I mean, it was easy peasy setting up.
Right, well, we didn't have bookcases and stuff.
Right, but I mean, some of these people had massive constructions to put together.
Right.
I mean, it was a construction project to put these booths together, and they had to do it in 105. I would say it was probably about 105, maybe
hot.
more than that, in that convention hall. No breeze, no nothing. It's just stifling heat.
Did it bring back flashbacks when you worked in theater?
A little bit, for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, but we did have the booth up. What did you think about running the booth itself and having people come by?
That part was fine. I mean, the being, we had really good foot traffic at our booth.
Yeah.
I mean, I was very pleased with how many folks came by, said hello, helped us out with donations, everything. I mean, everybody was spectacular who came by. The logistics of taking photos with people was a little bit interesting because it was hard to, we'd love to do it, right? Signing things for people, taking photos with you, please, we adore it. But having to jump outside the booth, take a photo, jump back behind the booth was tough because we have another booth right next to us, And so we did that for a day or two, and then decided, okay, we'll just stay back here and take a photo with folks as they turn around in front of our table. And sometimes people would jump behind our booth, so that was a little logistically difficult. But as far as folks coming up, the ambiance that I think we had at our booth, everybody being real friendly, everything was great, talking to folks. I thought that was great.
Yeah, there was never really any point where I was at the booth where I thought, I wonder if anyone will come by. There was always people there,
Sure.
And that was really fun to talk to people. The fortune cookies seemed to go over okay.
Yeah,
very well.
I'm glad
Sorry if
that
they turned your
did.
mouth blue. Actually, I thought that was hilarious.
We didn't know that was going to happen until we tried them on Wednesday.
Right.
We're trying out cookies. We're like, hey, my tongue's blue. So, well, you learn. We did a couple events at the show. I want to talk about the events that we did. The first event was we were invited to the Geek Chic XP event at the zoo. Now, we didn't know anything about this. We knew that, this is a Geek Chic table here. We knew they did things of high quality. They said that this event was part of their Geek Chic XP experience so that you could learn about this and do this in future events. They were charging people $85, but we got in for free. I think most people did. They were handing out coupons and stuff. So the zoo was supposedly near the convention center.
Well, it was if you walked the right way.
Yeah, but even when we walked the right way, it was still probably 2 miles. It was a pretty good chunk walking back.
It wasn't 2 miles.
Well, anyway, we didn't know how to get there, so we were using GPS, which took us the driving way, which was
Right.
long.
Probably
Right,
2
right.
miles.
That was definitely 2 miles. We walked a lot on that day. So we went over to the zoo, and remember, this was an incredibly hot day, so that had something to do with it.
Right.
And the zoo at Indianapolis is a fine zoo. I didn't see half of it, that's for sure, because we were so hot. We're like, what's
Right.
inside? An
Right.
aquarium? Yeah! So we went inside the aquarium.
Pet some sharks.
Yeah.
When we got there, the XP people had a booth there, the Geek Chic people, and so I said to them, what is this? So they get to go in the zoo, you get to see special things only for you. I guess there was a dolphin show. There was a booth that they set up with gourmet hot dogs and hamburgers. We'll get to that in a second. That way you're able to eat. And then they said you could play board games. And so I asked them, where are the board games? And they said you can play them at any table in the park, whatever board games you brought. Well, I didn't know that. I thought that there would be like an area where there were board games set up and stuff. But there wasn't, and it was way too hot. There was no way I was playing a board game in that kind of heat. I don't even know that I want to play a board game
Be dripping sweat all over the board.
outside anyway, unless it's like really nice and cool.
Right.
So we walked around for a while, and then we went to the the tent where they had people in it. And I know what the point of this was. They wanted to bring in lots of people so you could hang out and see designers and publishers, make this like an event that you don't want to miss. I don't know that they succeeded on that, though. There was a few publishers there, not many. There was a lot of media personalities there. Most of the podcasters and vloggers were there, and there was Geek Chic people there. And then there were people that, fans of the shows there. What did you guys think of that whole thing?
I mean, I thought it was an okay event, and there are things that are clearly out of their control. Like when they planned this event, they couldn't have known it was going to be that hot in Indianapolis.
Right.
That's acceptable. But the entire event seemed to me, and I'm coming from an outsider's point of view here, I have very little information, pre-event as to what it was going to be. But it seemed to me like it was going to be this, they were going for this upscale experience. A very, just something classy. And it was basically a big picnic.
Yeah.
At the zoo. And, they build, like you said, you almost were laughing there, they build gourmet hot dogs, gourmet burgers. It was hot dogs and burgers. Which is fine.
You could have as many as you wanted, though.
But everything just had a very picnicky kind of feel to it. You hung out, you had some drinks, you had a little ice cream and these little, tubs, and it was fine, but it was not what it seemed like it would be. If they had said, hey, picnic day at the zoo, $20. All right. But 85 or whatever you said, and here's all this gourmet and unique experience, and hey, get the backstage feel, and you're, it's like this classy thing they're putting on. I didn't get that. It just was a day at the zoo with people,
And my family wasn't there, so I like to go to the zoo, but without my family, that's not as interesting to me. I don't go to GenCon to go to the zoo.
Right.
And we took out half a day, essentially, of our schedules to go to this, and I felt like we could have hung out with other people in an air-conditioned place and played games and ordered pizza, and it would have been the same experience. You said that it's not worth $85. I'm not sure it was even worth $30. I mean, yeah, there's a zoo ticket. I get that, but the rest of it, I could just go to the zoo on my own.
Anybody check how much it cost to get into the zoo?
No, I don't know. I mean, maybe the zoo there is super expensive and everything. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm really just going to simply mirror a lot of what was already said, and I'm not going to actually say it. I'm with everything that's been said. I don't enjoy paying $85 to walk around in sweltering heat. I don't like paying $85 for a burger that is not as good as something that I can make at home. I don't like paying $85 for something that was billed one way and it actually turns out to be another. I feel slighted if that's the case. Now, again, like Tom said, we got in for free because they offered that to us. But if I had been one of the people paying $85, I would have been furious. Because they billed it as one thing, and then it turned out to be something completely different, in my estimation. So that's that.
Well, either way, it was certainly something interesting, and maybe they'll get better as time goes by. I'm not willing to write it off. I'm not saying that this company was devious or bad or anything. I think they just kind of didn't pull off what they were trying to do.
Exactly.
Maybe it will work better next time. Though, hopefully they get people next time.
Right.
I would recommend an ice skating rink. Anyhow, the other big event that we did, there was many small things, but we had our Dice Tower live show. And maybe you guys weren't, but I was kind of amazed at how many people came to that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It was a great.
We got there as a long line. I'm like, I wonder what that's for. Like, that's for our show.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, we were after the Double Clicks, who are a pretty well-known geek-style band, and it looked like our crowd was bigger than theirs. They had to bring, well, I know it was, because they had to bring in extra chairs.
Yeah.
And that boggled my mind. And again, I said as I'm in a live show, and I'm very sorry to everyone who came, that when it was over, we basically said, everyone needs to get out. I wish we could have
Yeah,
talked to
that's really-
everybody there. We'll try to do that
constraint.
better next time.
It just couldn't be helped because of the way the place runs, really. But hopefully, if you were there, had a good time at the show itself, and yeah, we had to unfortunately get out of there ourselves. In fact, and pack up in a hurry, and setup was a hurry. But the event itself, I thought there was a good energy in the room. There was. I don't know. It buzzed a little bit, and it's nice being able to chat with people live in front of all these other people, and to sort of say something and look out there and see someone nodding like, yeah, I know what they're talking about.
Right.
And that's great. You know what I mean? It's that nice feedback loop that makes everything a little bit better. And instead of having to listen to it, at home or on the car ride somewhere, you can be right there with us.
Yeah.
It had a good vibe. I thought it was fun. And of course, we sang at the show. Some of us tried to sing, like Mr. Levine, who according to Eric Summer, we just saw a tweet from him a few minutes ago. He did everything he could, folks, but unfortunately, he still cannot make Jason hit the notes. So he really tried.
But we had a good time there, and while it wasn't as good of a show as I wanted it to be, I think maybe I'm just being too sticklerish on that point. But
Critical.
it was amazing how many people came.
Yes.
We really hope to get a bigger room next year, because there was a point where they were starting to talk about turning people away that had tickets, which would have really made me upset. I think everyone with a ticket got in. If you didn't, let me know, and I'll talk to GenCon about that. But we're trying to convince them to give us a bigger room next year. Of course.
And every time we do a live show, we do learn something. You know what I mean?
Right.
We do get better at putting on these live shows, because the more we do them, the more we figure out, hey, maybe we should try this way. Hey, how about we do that instead of the way we did it? All these little things that are not perhaps perceptible to the audience, but we learn the more we do it. So they do get better, and they grow too simultaneously, which is excellent, and we appreciate you coming out.
So that's what we did at Gen Con. We're going to have a couple more videos. The next video we do will be the games we played at Gen Con. Let's see you then. Until then, I'm Tom Vasel.
I'm Zee Garcia. Have a good one.
I'm Sam Healey. See you on the flip side.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.